Hi guys, welcome back for another tutorial. Consider this as like part 2 of or continuation of my Maya UV mapping tutorial that I did previously. So basically this is we're going to continue from where we left off. Last tutorial what we have done is we have done the UV mapping for our my X model here, and now we're gonna show you how to texture it inside Adobe Photoshop, and then I'm going to be importing it back into Maya and set up the materials, right? And so there are few maps that we need to produce here. Okay, so I'm gonna type this in, the maps that we're going to produce, right? So this is the 4 texture map that we're going to produce, and we're going to apply it on our Blend Maya material, right? Okay. So I have in the previous tutorial I already exported out using the UV snapshot here. All right, you can have a look back at the video, my previous video tutorial, to learn about it. And now I'm gonna open up Adobe Photoshop, and I also have a set of texture here that is going to supplement, or is going to you know, like enhance my texturing process here. So this will be a reflection map that we're going to use, but not as a mask, as the reflection itself. So this can you can actually download it on the internet. You can easily find reflection map. So all you need to do is just Google reflection map, reflection texture map, and you will find, you know, things like this. And yeah, you can also produce it yourself. You can take a photo and blur it, and enhance the contrast, brightness, contrast, and curve, or the levels to get this kind of effects. All right. So these are texture that I will use to support to further enhance my texturing, right? Okay. So in Photoshop here, so I have the UV already set up, and I'm just going to drag it into Photoshop, and what you get here is the UV is already laid out, previously, but you can hardly even see it. So I'm going to name this as the UV guide. Of course, it's going to guide us on where to paint, right? So I'm going to create a new layer and put it below the UV guide, and I'm going to name this as my BG, stands for background. So background, I'm going to fill in black color, so I'm going to use pure black and Alt backspace just to fill in the whole color in the layer. Now I'm gonna lock the layer for the background, and for my UV guide I am going to further enhance this a bit, because if I zoom in, actually the lines is not really pure white. It's kind of like silverish a little bit, so I'm going to make it pure white so it's easier for us to see. So here I will go to my image, adjustment, hue and saturation, and apply a full lightness to it so it becomes pure white, and then hit OK. Alright, then I will duplicate this same layer, so you see it gets a bit more brighter, and merge these two UV guide. So select both the layer. You can hold shift while you do that. Alright, so you can hold shift and select both, and then right click and then merge layer. So you can just double click on that, just erase the name copy, so it just remain as UV guide. Alright, so now you can lock that layer, and you can save your PSD progress now. I'm going to save as. So inside here I'm going to name this as X underscore color. That will be my color map. So save it as PSD first, Okay, now whatever texturing is happening inside from now on will be between the UV guide and the background layer, right? So I'm going to create a new layer between this two layers, right? So I see I have this layer 1 now. Now I can double click that and we're going to name this as our base color. So you start out with the base color. Now base color, now base color, if you look at I got a reference here, right? So this is the target that we're trying to achieve here, right? So we're gonna make it like a wear and tear kind of texturing. There's like weathering and those kind of effects. Make that so that it doesn't look like pure brand new. It looks like it's been used before. So to create this kind of texturing, yeah, you need a lot of referencing so that you can reference texture on, see how the texture actually aged, or weathered. All right, so I'm gonna follow this color scheme. So the blade of the axe will be like dark red, almost maroonish, and then yellow and dark gray on the handle parts, right? And then there will be a silverish at the sharp end of the blade of the axe, right? So basically this is not coated. The other part of it is actually coated. Okay, so then this is yellow as well, but you can see it's already get weathered. The chipped, the spray paint, the yellow spray paint is already chipped, and it reveals the metal underneath it. So this axe is actually like a total of it is actually built out of metal, and it's actually metal. Everything is metal. There's no wood on this particular objects. All right, so coming back here, we're going to start out with the base color. Just fill in, just like normal like digital painting and all this stuff. You always start with the base color, and then you start to build all the shaded tones and all the texturing, the textures on the surface and all that stuff. So I'm going to use the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool. That's the fastest way to fill the base color on inside this layout. So I'm going to choose about that kind of yellowish color. Alright, so I'm just gonna quickly texture this. Let's just fill this in, and backspace, then it will fill in just inside this crop area. Alright, so this part here can be yellow as well, of course. Yeah, but don't worry about when you do your texturing. It's okay if you be messy outside, but the inside is what's important. But to be a bit more professional, try to keep it quite clean also on the outside. All right, and also another thing, when you do your texturing, try to bleed it a little bit. Try to like have your color instead of, for example, instead of just filling just at the line there. All right, just try to have a little bit extra bleed, all right, on the outside, so that in that there is an error in texturing. Like there will be like some kind of line will appear when you already texture your model, and it will try to reveal the black. All right, I'm not sure if you understand what I'm saying, but whatever it is, just when you do your texturing, just bleed this out a little bit. All right, just have an extra, just paint a little bit over the edge of the UV layout. That will save you a lot of problems. right? Okay, so yeah, that's just an example. I'm gonna drag this and then delete that. So I'm gonna go through very quick. So I'm going to basically fast forward this, alright? Then when I'm already filled this in, then we will go to normal mode again, normal time mode again, alright? So speed time. Alright, I'm done. So now it's time to check whether is there any errors or not on the surface of our 3D models. So it's time to save this PSD. So I'll save it already. I'll just Control S, and I'm gonna go to Maya. So just go back here, and we're gonna create a new material and assign to this all three models. So go to Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. Right, so here is Hypershade, and I'm gonna make a new material. So in the Maya stack here, click the surface category, and then choose blend. Just click on it, then the blend will appear. So I'm selecting both all three models right now, and then I'm gonna assign this material by holding my right click, and don't let go my mouse. Just point it at assign material to selection, and there you go. Now this already made a connection between the blend and also the X models, and I'm going to rename this by clicking on this, and you notice that it actually opened the properties in the attribute editor on the right side of the panel here. So I'm going to name this. I can name it here. So X underscore mat stands for materials. So one material for 3 models. Right, now I'm gonna go to the max. I'm going to the X material, and then I'm gonna attach the PSD Photoshop base Photoshop color texture here into our color channel here. Click that, and go to, and it asks me a node, right? So again, if I just click this color slot, it will ask me what would you want to attach, so what node. So I'm going to choose the file node, and then you can see the work area already have some connection going on here. So this is a file node attached to the color slot here. And then what I do is if I click on the file node here, or I can just right click and hold it, and hold right click at that X material, and then go to graph network, and it will arrange it for me nicely like this. And then go to the file node, and then at the folder on the properties here of the file node, click it and choose your the X color PSD. So hit open. Alright, now if you see, if you didn't update, you just double click here. Alright, then it should update. And also another thing is that if you can't find, then let's say if you already assign this material to the X, but you don't see the texture. So what you do is you need to hit 6 or click this button over here to reveal the texture that is applied. Alright, so 6, so I just go through a little bit. 4 is like wireframe, 5 is just shaded view with no texture fill, and then 6 with the texture fill, shaded with the texture fills. Alright, you can even see the UV layout wireframe here. So another cool thing about this process right now, if you want to speed things up, you can go to the window and then setting preferences, and then go to preferences. Alright, and then in the category just choose the file / projects, and then scroll down and then make sure you enable automatically reload updated image files. Just click that. I don't know why by default it's turned off, because this is quite important. So hit save. Now watch this. If you go to Photoshop, you'll say I want to update this texture. I will hide the UV and Control S to save. Alright, and then go back to Maya, and boom, see that there is no the texture is automatically updated, so you don't have to manually update your material. If you want to do manually, you have to like keep on, every time you save in Maya, then you have to go open Maya, and then you have to click at this material, and then you have to double click at this image for it to refresh. So it's like such a hassle. So with this process, you just save, so if I just scribble something here and I hit Control S, I go back to Maya, and then boom, look at that, the texture is there. Okay, so just gonna do that. Right, change my brush back to normal. Okay, so that is the process. You will go back and forth from Photoshop to Maya, Photoshop to Maya, and see the changes that you will do to your model. Okay, all right. I haven't actually finished. I forgot about one thing. I forgot about the black handles. Half of it is black, so I'm gonna make that right now a dark gray, right? So just gonna use that, zoom to that area. I'll choose about, if I look at the example, here's about somewhere here, so here. Alright, I will fill all of this dark gray. Okay, I'm gonna save this, and then let's see what to fix. Right, I think can be slightly higher. So bring back my UV, just going to make it higher a little bit. Okay, save. There you go. Alright, so now it's time to check. So one problem here is, you see on this side here, because this is in the texture editor here, if I turn on the border edge, you'll see this is actually being split in the UV. Alright, so one side here and then another side here, so it makes it doesn't match. Alright, so it doesn't match. So how to fix that is, I'm going to shell mode and pick this one, so I know this is the one that I need to fix. So I'm going to adjust it in Photoshop for this side of the UV map. So here, open. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. It's like a guessing game. So I'm gonna put a little bit more extra higher here. Alt backspace. I'm gonna Control S to save. Go back to Maya and see its update. I can close the UV map right now. So this looks fine, right? But the side here looks a bit a bit low, slightly low, so I'm going to go back here. I am going from here and going higher like that, so maybe just straight on that angle. Control S, save, come back here. Wait a minute. I'll get confused out of myself right now sometimes. So just click here. Okay, now this is too high, right? So this is too high. Okay, so we need to lower it down. So let's go back here. I'm gonna fill in yellow color instead. So I'm gonna use the color picker and pick this color and use my lasso tool again. Just gonna trim this down a little bit. Fill that in, Control S, save. Alright, just nearly there. So yeah, I'm gonna speed this up, and then once I'm done with matching all of it, then I will go back to normal time mode. Alright, so speed time. Okay, I done with this part. Now I want to settle this area here. I will hide the UV guide. Control S, save it. Alright, this looks okay, quite nice. Alright, it looks continuous. It looks continuous, good. So I guess those are the only texture, UV border, consistency that you have to watch out. Alright, the rest should be fine. So now I will move on to further adding texture to it. Alright, so I go back to here, open my UV layout, zoom back out. Alright, so the next move is to add a base rough material, rough silver underneath the painted, the paint coat of the X here. So it's going to be something rough like this. So I'm going to use a texture to help me out here to make it more faster. So we'll open, file open. I'm going to use see, this one instead. Okay, I'm going to bring this all the way into this, into the actual layer. So it's going to be on top of the base color, so I'm going to put that rough metal. So this is a rough metal layer, and yeah, there's no need to resize it. I need that details there, and I'm going to put it here, starting from here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate and make sure the duplicate covers all the UV layout throughout all of these areas, because all of this is actually, the base is actually metals, right? So hold Alt and then select, and then Control just drag it down like that. Alt, fill this in quickly, right? So I'm going to do this very fast. Okay, right, and then now I will merge all of these duplicated layers, right? Just, and then go merge layers, and see, this is all one layer. And then I'm going to use the clone stamp with the soft brushed, alright, and try to eliminate all this seam line that you see here, right? So I'm going to go back to clone stamp and hold Alt, sample a little one here, and then just fill that in. You don't have to fill everything, like even outside here, whatever is, as long as you fill in the inside, should be fine. Okay, so just keep on sampling it. Oh yeah, and this tutorial is I assume that you know at least you know an average level of how to use Photoshop. Okay, so like I don't have to go so detailed on how to like I don't have to go like really slow on how to use clone stem and so on, so it's quite easy to use, right? Oh yeah, and I assume that you should already know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, just look up on tutorials that teach you how to do clone stem and like a beginner level of Photoshop. Okay, the thing that you want to do is you want to break the tone as well, you know, like you don't want to like make everything one here all bright white or things like that. You want to like break it up a little, sample other darker areas and just fill that in. I think that's about cover it. So okay, all right, so that's how you do it. The next part is we're gonna, if I turn off the UV guide and Control S, go back to Maya, and you see this X is like a really bare rough metal on it. I've spot something here, so I'm gonna see what's the problem on that one. Yeah, definitely I missed this one, so I'm just gonna fill in. Alright, so just okay, I think hopefully I didn't miss anything. Just a little bit more lighter here. Okay, alright, hopefully nothing is missed out. So I'm gonna save this, and what I'm going to do now is I will use the masking technique to mask all of this layout. I mean to mask all of this texture, and I'm going to only reveal the one that I want. Okay, so select the layer and then click on the masking tool, which is down here. So what you get is this two bracket. So of course make sure you choose, this is the original texture, and then the original image texture, and this one is the mask layer. So you must always select the mask layer, because what we're going to do now is we're going to do like a painting inside this mask instead of the actual texture layer here. So click the mask, make sure the bracket is selected like that in the mask layer, and then how mask work is it uses the black and white information to hide and unhide certain things, which means if you paint, if I go brush here, I use a soft, say a hard brush. Now there's only one option, you can't have colors. All right, there's only like between, is a gradient between the black and the white. So let's say if I make it pure black, it will hide the texture or the image that you put mask on it. But if you paint white, pure white, it will reveal. Okay, but if you paint like gray, you will have semi-transparent masking. All right, so that's how it works. So I'm gonna go pure black for this one, and then I'm gonna fill everything here by using the Alt backspace to black. So you see everything disappear, and then I'm gonna paint a white value to reveal only the scratch that I want. So basically, like if you see this, all this scratched, these are all used, you're going to be using the mask for that. Okay, so but before that you need to make sure you have a proper brush. Alright, so right now I'm using the brush tool, B for the shortcut for that. And then if I click on the brush options, I do already have some downloaded brushed that is like a rough brushed. Alright, so for example like this one over here. Alright, this will help to create the texture very nice. You see, like this automatically reveal those scratch quickly. Right, it's gonna undo that. But I'm going to show you how to create a brush that can also help you in terms of doing this process over here. Okay, so I'm going to make a new file for this. All right, just a white background will do. So I'm going to import the texture. Actually I can use this texture over here. Just drag that and then just enter. Oh yeah, and another thing is that if you notice, the layer is actually smart object. So smart object don't allow you to like delete certain part because it's a smart object. You have to rasterize it, so you have to like right click at the name and then rasterize the layer. Then you can actually like modify the image to a certain degree. So that's what you need to do. You need to rasterize the layer, but now I already done that. Okay, so I'm going to convert this into a black and white by going to image adjustment, desaturate, and I am going to invert the color. Alright, so Control I to invert. So this is a nice scratch thingy that I can use. Alright, so what I can do now is I can just take the part that I want, alright, to turn it into the scratch brush. So image, I'm going to adjust a little bit of a curve here. So I'm going to drag this down. Alright, so I'm just going to drag up. Just make that white really bright. If you do like this, it will be nicer. Okay, so something like this. Alright, so I'm gonna go hit the OK, and I'm going to select. I'm gonna like soften certain things here. So I'm going to use the masking tool, and then I use right click, use a soft brush. Oh, that's a big brush. So I'm gonna paint black on that, so this will hide certain things that I don't want. I just want this area, and I want it to be slightly subtle and soft. Okay, so for example like this. Right, what I can also do is change my brush to something like a rough brush, and add that roughness. Add that roughness on the edges so that it's not looking too soft. I think I'm going to adjust the original image. So by selecting the original image, I'm going to adjust the levels here. Just crank up the white. Alright, like so. And go back to my brushing for my mask. So just go there and just exclude certain things that you don't want. Alright, so let's say you are happy with this. You can select the area. Okay, and then you go to edit, and then go to image, edit. Oh wait, sorry, it is still mask, so you need to like flatten this together. So right click here, I will right click at the name and then merge down. Alright, so then you grab this area here, then edit define brush presets, just click that, and then you name that as, let's say, scratch brush custom, let's say. So but remember the name 799, so hit OK, or your name might be different, this is depending on the brush number. So hit OK, and that's it. That's how you create brush. So if I, let's say, fill this back all to white, and then I just paint this using the brush, and I choose 799, you see it here, right? So what I get is, if I paint black, so I get that texture, right? So that texture being applied. Okay, if I use a yellow, so I got a yellow one, so things like that. Okay, all right, so that's how you create a your own brush. So yeah, I'm gonna use this, why not? All right, so here back in my texture here, so I'll make sure I select my masking layer here, and then I go choose white, and I'm going to start to zoom, hold Z to zoom, click and drag. So what you're going to do is, usually the paint that is chipped off is at the edge of this usually at the hard edge of every corner of the models, all right, because that is the place that is usually most prone to scratched, all right, or in contact with other things. So that's why the paint will chip mostly over there. So you're going to create that realism by using the brush. So I'm going to paint, and I can open my brush option here. So you see the angle. So what I need to do is I need to decrease the brush size, and then I can go back to this angle like that, and just click that. See? So I'm going to undo that. I will make it smaller, and I will tap it, I will click it twice. I mean, if you have a webcam, it would be also nice to do this, to do texturing. So but I'm using just mouse for this. So just click again. You'll see, you'll scratch it. You can adjust the angle. So that's what you do. You can just quickly apply that to your model. We'll undo that. Okay, so it's like a really non-destructive way. You can just go there and blah blah blah, just put that texture, don't worry, just put it in. Like so, and yeah, I'm gonna fast forward this, and later I'll go back to normal time where I need to explain certain things. So speed time. Alright, so I'm done filling this in. So gonna close the UV guide, and then let's see what we got so far. So Control S, save, go back to Maya, and there you go. You have a scratch on the edges of the X, right, on one part, and so does here. So to further make it nicer, so you can open back your UV guide, and I'm going to use another brush. Well, go ahead and download, scratch brush or grunge brush, the brush that you going to basically type of brush that you should search is like a grunge. Just Google grunge. Grunge brushed or scratch brushed, for this kind of situation. Alright, so yeah, so I will use the one that I have. Not see. Okay, just normally, I'm gonna just like fill in certain areas here. Yeah, this is my scratch brush. I mean, actually not mine, but I downloaded it. So what else can I use? Okay, so basically I've taken the texturing overboard a little. So what I will do now is I will use a type of brush. Let's see this brush here. Okay, brush number 27. It's just a standard Photoshop brush, and I will basically take back some of this, right, so that it's not too over scratched. Alright, so I will paint back a little black, make the brush smaller, and just fill in certain parts. Just drag that a little part here, just make sure it doesn't go out of controls. Alright, I can also do like about a dark gray like this, so it's not really too black on the surface. I mean, like, just paint that out. You can hide certain things here, like, oh, if this is too much, you can just bring back the red paint back there. So I'm just gonna try to make it a little subtle, so not too over. Like, the image here is not too much. Beware not to stroke your brush. Just click on it, more like a clamps, just more like a stamping on the surface. Because if you stroke, it will create those ugly lines, like it looks painterly. It looks too. It looks as if like someone is painting on it. Can go from big to small brush, just alternately change it, just to create variations. Okay, let's see what we have now. I'm going to save this, go back to Photoshop, and there you go. That's the rough brush that you're producing. Okay, so this is just one part of it. Yeah, go ahead and make it more nicer with other brushes, but that will do for this. Right, so basically this is what you're going to be doing. So I'm going to fast forward this and go back to normal mode when when I'm done. All right. Okay, pause the normal time. So here, if you look at it, there's actually one issue here that I faced. See, because this model is meant to be not for video games, so it's going to be like it's going to be smooth out, is going to be high poly. So if I select all three models here and I click on the number 3 on my keyboard to smooth it, and you will notice this shouldn't be any problems, but the problem comes over here. See that hit number 1, so you hit number 1 on the X plate, number 2 you got this problem over here, or number 3. Alright, so what happened here is the stretching of the UV here. If I go back to number 1, see, because it is split, how I model this, it is split into 3. Alright, so what happened is the middle one is going to hold that line, right? Because in the texture border here, actually I've cut it here. So what happened is that there is a bit of a pulling happening when I smooth it out. You see the edge, you see this edge, when I hit number 3, this is the edge, right? So it pulls this and it automatically stretches this up. So how do I fix this? Alright, to fix this kind of problem, if it happens to you, this is actually a little bit flaws on my side in terms of the modeling, but now that I realize it, so one workaround that I can think of is basically adding more edge loop here, so that it will close that pulling, it will reduce that pulling. Alright, so I will go to my mesh tool, insert edge loop, and I will insert a loop here. Okay, and of course the other side. But now see something here, but now what happened is that the loop continues to the other side instead of just one side over here. So this will create some problem, right? So what I do is I will go into the top view, hit the F to focus on this area, hit number 4 for wireframe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unselect the right side of these edges. So hold Control and I just drag a box selection like this and unselect that side. So just double check on the perspective view, make sure this is the one that I'm sorry, I delete the wrong one, sorry. So I unselect the wrong one. So we want to unselect the correct one. So hold Control and right click. Then just click and hold and make a box selection like that. Go back here, just make sure that this is the one that we want to remove. Okay, go all the way down, and yep. Alright, then go to remove this, Control Delete. There you go, it disappear. Then what you can do for this one is, if you want, you can join these two together. Hit the F key to kind of focus on this, and then go to Edit Mesh, merge component to center. That will clean it up a little bit. Where am I? Alright, somewhere there. So again, I'm doing the same thing here. Merge component, and let's see the result. If I go to my UV layout, there shouldn't be any problem, right? Just a minor changes. If it's a drastic changes, then you might want to re-UV map this area, the blade, this object. But it's just a minor changes. So now if I hit number 3, voila, no more problems, because the stretching or whatever will happen in the middle here, which is too small for people to see. So yeah, that's how you solve that issue. Alright, so I'm done with part of the here. Let's say I can do a nicer job here, but I don't want to spend too much time for video tutorial, just to get you an idea of how how I do things for how people do for texturing, like, yeah, it should be enough. Alright, so we'll move on to the body parts. So the handles of the X. So speed time again. Alright, so I can go on and on making this texture more nicer, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I guess you get what I am trying to do, right? So just a little bit more here. I want to just reduce a little bit of the texture over here with a dark gray. So just want to reduce this a little bit. Looks a little bit too intense, so I just want to paint that a little bit off that chart a bit. Okay, let's see what we got there. Control S. That's more like it, so it's not too intense. Yeah, so you got an idea of how to do your texturing for the X. I've textured the edges here, and yeah, to make it all a believable wear and tear. So let's say I call this texture done, right? So yeah, I already saved that, and this is our color texture. So once we're done with the color texture, now it's time to move on to the, where's my notepad? So this one done. Now we're going to move on to create the specular texture map. All right, the specular. So I'm going to save as the color. So you always start with the color, and then everything else will be slightly easier. So save as, and then you can choose instead of color, you're going to name that specular or spec. All right, specular. Save. and specular works with black and white. So white will be more shiny, and black will be, of course, no shiny. So we're going to determine the metal part that is exposed will be more, the gray part here is going to be more shiny, then the rest of the paint coating will be less shiny. Right, just gonna paint that a little bit. Oops, I saw some straight line there, looks ugly, so I'm gonna paint that out a little bit. Sorry, it's a pure black. Alright, Control S, just nitpicking over there. So now that this is the specular color, so I will convert this to black and white. So first the base color. Alright, start with the base color, go select the base color layer, and then go to image, and then adjustment, and then desaturate to make it black and white. Okay, now at this point you want the base color to be everything to be just the same color. Okay, so I will actually, what I do is I can just fill this in with a gray color. It's just something about a middle tone like that, a middle gray, and then because I want it to be just a shiny a little bit, but not as shiny as the metal. So I will coat everything. Let's see, it's about right about here. So I'm gonna Alt backspace on that, so that will be, I think I'm gonna make it more darker than that. Right, so now the rough metal will be right about this kind of color. I can actually change the original color here a little bit. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to convert this into a black and white by desaturating it. Alright, desaturating it, and then I'm going to adjust my curve or level. Just play down with that. Okay, just make it brighter a little bit, and I'm gonna save this, and you're gonna see it first in Maya, then we adjust a little bit more further. All right, so wait, let me just adjust that one more time. All right, so I'm gonna Control S, save my specular color, and open my Maya, and then go to my hyper shade, and then select my layer, and then in the specular roll off is where the brightness is controlled. Alright, so I'm going to click on this specular roll off box here, and then choose my file node. So you can regraph that again. So this is my specular, so this is my color, this is my specular roll off. So click this. Alright, or from the material here, you will see there's already something here, right? Specular roll off. There's some that I already plugged in something here. So I click here, is the same as this one. So in the folder option here, click, and I'm going to choose my specular. So click that, and if it doesn't, just double click to re-update that maps. And if you are using the renderer viewport 2.0, you should be able to see the specular appears a little bit different. Right, can render this out. Oh yeah, at this point Let's try and render that out. Can't see much effects here. We're going to put some lighting if you need to. Alright, what we can also do is right now all this is preview is number 3, so I'm going to hit by number 1. So this is the final model, the actual model, the low poly model. So I'm going to smooth it out. Right, so in my channel box you see I have a lot of input here. So before I smooth it out, I want to delete all the history, edit, delete by type, history, so that cleans it out a bit. And then after that I will select all 3 and then mesh and then smooth. Alright, then go back here, open the poly smooth face, and then division, just put about 2. That will make it permanently high poly, and then I can render that. Right, so what I have here, let's try to make it a little bit more, let's adjust the material here right now. Okay, so in the material, so select the material, I just double click on that, it will open the attribute editor. I will adjust it a little bit. So I will spread the eccentricity, and let's see that in the rendering. Okay, I think I want to add my own lighting here. So you can go to the rendering shelf and then choose a point light. This is a point light, just click that. It appears on the floor there, and you can actually pick that up and move it. But right now you don't see the lighting effect here on the model, right? So you must turn on here on the viewport, the one beside the checkered ball. Right, so now you can see the effects moving along. So I'm going to render this and see how it looks like. Okay, let's tweak the material here. So in the color here, I want to make my background a little bit more darker than this. So I will fill in more darker colors and alt backspace on that, so my base color is more darker. And I'm going to save this, and let's see that happens in the view here, and render this out. Alright, so as you can see here, if now when I render this, I put my light here and try to render this up. Notice that this area is a bit more shinier than the one in the painted one, right? So that's how we can control our areas to be more shiny and not. I'm gonna adjust this color a little bit. So here, this is not must be as light as this. So if you want to do that, I'm gonna paint a more lighter colors on this side. Just brushed. Just make sure it's all white. Okay, Control S. can see that it's more shinier than the coating. Right? Okay. Okay, nice. Right. I was gonna boost up a little bit of the rendering to quality to production quality, so that it looks a bit more nicer. Okay, so that's the specular. So the bright area will be more shiny, and the darker area will be less shiny. So back in the materials, you want to put it in the specular roll-off. For that, eccentricity is where you control the spreadness or the brightness. No, I mean like the spreadness of the highlights. You can make it bigger, you can make it sharper. You can see it here. See, like, put it bigger, then it's spread throughout the whole surface on a certain angle when the light hits that direction. Or you can make it more sharper, like so. So usually for this I put about 0.17. Or you can even experiment with it, like, what if I plug in the same just graph network that. So what if I plug in the same specular map to this eccentricity? What if I plug this one to here? So you can do that by doing this kind of process. So select the main material, make sure eccentricity is available, then click and hold your middle mouse button for this file node, and then just drag it and put it at the eccentricity here. Right, so what you get is render this out. Yeah, so this is what you kind of get. But of course, this is not what we're going for, so I'm just going to undo that process. Alright, so so we have done the specular, the color, and then we're going to create the bump map. Alright, now for bump maps, we're going to open our colored texture again, and then we're going to save as X bump and save it. Okay, and then bump map uses the black and white value to put things in and reveal things up. So the base color, we're going to convert this into black and white, desaturate it, and then the original color for the rough metal, we're going to convert this into black and white, because right now it's not black and white. So desaturate it again. Alright, now the next part is for the base color. I'm gonna make all the base color here to have the same color. Alright, so I will select like a bunch of these. And give it like a middle dark gray, a little bit. Okay, so we're going to select the original texture, and then for the rough metal here, and then we're going to go to image, adjustment, hue and saturation, and then adjust the lightness, make it more darker than the base paint coat colors. Just about something like that. Okay, now we can try it in Photoshop. Hide the UV guide, hit Ctrl S to save the bump maps, and then we're going to open our Maya here, and then in our material we're going to look for bump maps, which is up here, bump mapping. Click at the checker box here and then choose the file node, and so let's regraph this again. So what you get now is one main material, and then these are the 3 slots that is filled in. So the one that is the bump map is this one here. So you want to select the file node, and then in the option here is where you will add that X bump PSD. So just double click that to refresh. Now let's see the effects that we got here. Wow, look at that. It is too rough, right? So if it's too rough, if you render this out, yeah, it is too rough. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tone that down, select the bump node here and reduce the depth. 1 is too high, so I'm going to put 0.12 or something like that, and just render that out again. There you go. Now you have a bit more toned down bump map. Okay. So here now you can tweak a little bit of the settings here. So I might be pushing it too dark, so I'm going back here, adjustment, hue saturation, make it slightly lighter. Control S on that. Go to Maya, render this out. Okay, and you get the effect that you want. So if you don't want it to be too much of a, let's tweak this a little bit. Right, looks a bit too rough. If you don't want that, you can always turn down some more. 0.08 and just render that out again. Yeah, and you get that. But if you want to turn down a little bit more further, like for example this part here, you know this is causing a lot of problems, you can use this the blur brush just to blend it a little bit. The blur brush, the soft edges, strength 50, just blur this out a little bit, just to tone things down. You can save this and see the result on that. So it looks a bit more less bumpy. Okay, so again, just want to open my specular here, so I adjust the base color a little bit to slightly more brighter colors. fill that in. I'm gonna save this. Just gonna have a look at the result here. And now slightly more shinier. Just slightly. All right. Okay. So the bump maps considered done. We're done with the bump maps, so all the scratches that we have added. So now it's time to add the last one, which is the reflection texture map. First, we need to open. You can add a little bit of reflection, a very subtle reflection to this. So in our texture map material, we open the you look down in the specular shading, you see reflectivity and reflected color. So we need to add a reflection in the reflected color here. So click at the checker box here, and then choose under the category of Maya here, environment texture. I'm going to use the environment ball as the wrapper to wrap the image around as a reflection on the material. And then you can regraph this again. See, it's getting bigger. The network is getting bigger for this. Now the environment ball here, okay, just gonna go back to the main menu. Alright, so the environment ball, I'm gonna put a file node inside here. So go to select the options, the checker box there, and then choose a file node, and in the file node you can regraph that again. Right, so I'm gonna select my file node for the environment, or maybe here. So just click that image here. It's the same as clicking this one, and then go to the yellow folder and choose my environment texture. Alright, so now you have the slight reflection on the X surface. So you can, but this is a quite strong. I'm going to tone this down to 0.5. That will do it. Just a subtle reflection, not too much on the surface. Okay. Alright. Alright. Still a little bit of testing here and there. Alright, that will do. So we got a bump map, we got a specular, more brighter on the metal side. Zoom that a bit. Right. So it's more brighter on the metal side, a little bit on the paint coated side, and you got a subtle reflection here going on. Alright, so once you have done all this and you have created all the diffuse, the specular, the bump, and the reflection texture, alright, so what you need to do now is basically just convert all of this texture map. I'm gonna reopen all that. Bump, specular, color. Yeah, we might need. So reflected texture map, I don't think we need that, and this one we just basically use this one here. So we select all these three and just open it, right? And we're going to convert this all into a TGA format. So this will, the TGA format will be, or the Taga will be the final format. So we're going to save as TGA format, right? So we already have that. So close this, then again Ctrl Shift S, a TGA format for the color. Okay, and then next one, Ctrl Shift S, TGA format for the bump. Alright, just use the default settings will do. Now back in Maya, you go to your hypershade and go each in each and every slot here, and redirect the texture into the TGA one. So color, click here and then choose the folder, use the TGA color, open that, step that to replace, go back to the main menu, bump mapping, go here, TGA bump. Alright, just go back out to the main page and then go to the specular roll off, select the yellow files and then go to the specular TGA, just go back out to the material, just double click on this, we'll refresh it again, and there you go. You have your final texturing happening to your model. Alright, now the reason why we choose, before I finish I just want to explain the reason why we save to TGA. Reason why we choose TGA is because the PSD that we have here, alright, these are all our work in progress raw texture files, alright, but once we finalize it we save in TGA. The reason why is because TGA is much more smaller, right, than the PSD. See, the PSD is 21.2 megabyte and this one is 12 megabyte. And another reason is because if you were to give this to other people, alright, some people might not have you just want to give an unaltered texture, so you want to give the bump map for the TGA format instead of the PSD, so that the file is your model folder will be more smaller. Alright, instead of having the bump map PSD, instead of having the PSD texture included, that will make the file size bigger. And yeah, you must have, putting it into a TGA is a bit more universal format that most application can open, alright, especially for video games. They might not, they might unable to read the PSD, so a TGA usually will do. Alright, so those are the few certain cases that you want to use a TGA as the final texture, and the bump map and the PSD is your raw format. So if you want to do so at least if you want to touch up your file again, let's say you need to modify the color again, you still have your PSD here and modify the color, and you can save that in TGA. You can save again to a TGA format. Alright, so hopefully you guys understand, and this is the tutorial for the texturing process of this 5X. Alright guys, so I'm going to leave you with the rendering for this X, so have fun. texturing it. So I see you around. Bye bye.